Hwoarang could
No one has
there.
pressed the button in the last 5 seconds. Now
yeah.
JDCR finally breaking the silence. And this is Speedkicks we talking about, baby. This is Panda. As a matter of fact, watch this next kid.
Uh-oh. He has him in rage, and probably what JDCR wanted. He has an opportunity. If JDCR does get a launch, it could be over. That's it. Oh, no, he dropped it. Never mind.
Picks it right back up. Handshake, no smile from Speedkicks. Just going to take the headphones off and advances to the top 8 on the winner's side.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here. We are at SCR 2018. I'm here with Speedkicks.
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? How the hell are you?
Oh.
No, it's good to see you. We got them, we got me, we got you. It's all good. Okay, first question, straight off the bat. What is Speedkicks? Where did that come from?
What is Speedkicks? So I play Hwoarang, Tekken. You know, he's a Taekwondo character, so a lot of kicks. I was 14 years old, and I thought, oh, Speedkicks is a cool name, so I just went with it.
You just came up with it?
Yeah, just like that. I don't know. I needed a new PSN for my Tekken account. I wanted to make a specific Tekken account, and I said, Speedkicks is good.
And it just stuck?
Yep, it just stuck.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it when people make up their own names. It's the coolest thing. Now, there are a lot of things to ask you, so I'm probably going to be jumping around a little bit here, but I guess one of the first things I want to ask you is, I had heard that you had said on stream that the game has become more fun for you recently. Can you tell me why that is?
So Season 2 just came out for Tekken.
Yeah.
And this game is feeling a lot different. Compared to Season 1, it feels a lot more active in how you have to think about the game, right? When you're playing the game, you have to be more aware of things because there are a lot of characters that are better now. A lot of characters have more working strategies. So the game is getting a little bit deeper how you have to play on like a moment-to-moment basis.
Okay.
That's really exciting for me.
Okay, all right. So well, let's talk about that a little bit then, because I understand that you're quite an analytical player, right? And there's a lot of old school players who are less analytical; they're more feel. Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair thing to say. Yeah. Like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like there are not enough analytical players? Do you feel like the future is going to be more analytical? Like, or do you just feel like that's me and you know, you guys do your thing, I'll do my thing? Like,
yeah, I think that might just be a me kind of thing, because I don't. There are some drawbacks to being so reliant on like understanding things before being able to do them. Tekken is like a really deep game, and some of these things come out as like a more of an art than a science.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
So for the players who have their trained instincts and they can just kind of pick up on things and go off it, they can adjust to things a little bit faster. You know, they can kind of get a better, like an easier time getting into the game. But I think for me, it's kind of like a coping, like the analytical ability is kind of like a coping for not having that instinct, the ability to just do that.
Okay. So you don't feel like a natural.
Right.
You feel like a worker.
Right.
Okay, a scientist. Okay, oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's interesting that you say that, the sort of art and the science, because one of the things I've noticed about Tekken, from the outside looking in, because I've not played much Tekken. I played a bit of Akuma, of course. That was fun. Because they treated him more respectfully. Well, I shouldn't go there, but whatever. They treated him very respectfully. He's my favorite character, so had to give that a go. But I noticed that there are some players out there who just really struggle with Tekken and go, oh my God, this is going to take me 20 years to master. I'm exaggerating a little bit. It sounds like that, right? And then you've got other people who are popping up, young people who are popping up and just like, hey, I'm just having fun and I'm a grandmaster or whatever, like, what is that? Can you explain that? Is that the art of the game?
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, definitely an art to it. There's parts of it that I can't even explain, but like there are players who can just kind of come out and like everything about the game just makes sense to them, right? Like they sit down and they just start doing things and like, oh, this is good, and then eventually they just keep training. And like I think Shadow's a good example of that. But he's a player who kind of he sits down, he doesn't think about much, he plays.
Yeah.
And it just, everything kind of makes sense and he just goes with it.
Wow. A little bit like seeing The Matrix maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is wild. All right, so talking of, you know, the analytical side, you also have a notepad, right? Like, you're known for your notepad. What do you write in your notepad?
When I write, okay, so what I write on the notepad actually has nothing to do with the game itself.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah. For sure.
That blows my mind. What are you writing about? You're like coffee later. You know, quite hungry. It was a good day.
But it's little things to kind of help me get into the mentality of playing. Right?
Yeah.
So I can sit down and kind of recreate my prime mentality. You know, so like, this is what I want to look at. This is what I want to be thinking about when I sit down and play. This is how I want my mind to be focused. And I just look at that, and it kind of allows my mind to be in the place it needs to be for everything to just process.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting, because I often talk to players about mindset. I've talked to them about how to deal with pressure. I've talked to them about how to get themselves into the winning mindset. And I've talked to a lot of thinking players, like Samurai, not XSK anymore, I don't think, but like, Samurai is a real thinker, and he had some interesting thoughts about how to get himself into the right place at the, you know, not literal place, but like mental place at the time.
Yeah.
Takedo is another one who's a bit like that. So you tend to have things written down where you just before the match. Is this before the match starts?
Before and during.
Before and during, you're just
matches.
So it's a little bit like centering yourself, but it's more like you've got something to read that centers you. Is that the right way of putting it?
Yeah, kind of like that. The way I see it is that there are things that should be handled by trained instinct in Tekken, right? So like, you know, kind of reactions, some things you can kind of pick up on, and there are things you kind of need to focus on. So I'm sort of going through that and like telling myself, this is what you need to focus on. Focus on this, focus on that. Don't get caught up on other things, and just allowing my mind to be solely on that and letting my training handle the rest.
Okay.
And it helps me in the proper thinking place to keep.
I think that would help me too, but I don't compete. But if I ever compete, I think that would help me too, because I understand that, like. Because I wake up in the morning, I actually need that for the mornings, I think, because I wake up in the morning and go, what the fuck am I doing? And I just go go back to bed because I can't remember. Yeah. Like I need that notepad which goes, you're trying to achieve this goal. Yeah. Oh right, yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm alive. That's why I get out of bed. So the scene now, you know, we're gonna cover some of this more in detail, but like I wanted to ask you more generally. Like the scene now, how does it compare? Because Tekken, I feel like over the last, Tekken 7 in particular, and you know, social media and online and all that sort of stuff, and that you've got the ability to watch all the Koreans are traveling and all that sort of stuff. How does the scene feel now compared to like when you first started? Like, how different is it for you? What are the biggest things that have changed for you personally, and you feel like you see in the scene in terms of trends?
Yeah, I definitely think so. There's a couple things that feel different. Most notably would probably be the kind of different communities that have spawned. Like even within the Tekken community, like there is, you have the online players. You have the people who kind of like sit at home, play the game. They're really into it. They're really good. You have the online players who kind of just are like not exactly casual, but they don't care about kind of being good at the game. They love watching it. They're kind of like fans of the game.
Yes,
right?
More of those. I think.
There's a ton of those now.
Yeah,
and then like there is the same community that I started out with, the tournament scene, the people who come out and travel.
Yeah,
and we're all kind of like on a stage for those those online players at home, and it just feels so different, like interacting between the different communities now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So all the communities, you are very visible to each other, and it's very clear where people come from, and whereas before you probably only interacted with your tournament guys.
Yeah, and it was mostly just the tournament guys, right? Like if you were watching a Tekken stream before, it was mostly full of those players who have been out to tournaments, and they've traveled, they've played, and like it was just our little small community of people who love this game and really want to get better at it. But now it's like it's exploded kind of.
Just exploded, yeah. And there definitely is a. I think for Tekken, it's a very watchable game. Like people get very excited about Tekken. It seems to be like one of the hypest things going on. Like I always hear that, even if I don't see it, I hear it. Like, oh, Tekken was the hypest thing ever, or whatever. And I think it also Tekken for me personally looks the best it's ever looked. Yeah. You know, it's such a beautiful game. Like when I first started, because one of the things that used to put me off about 3D fighters was just how clunky looking it was. You know, like I couldn't, and also it was just bad. I had one guy who used to beat me a lot, so like it was just like, nah, I'll stick to my 2Ds, whatever, you know. But now I'm looking at it, I'm just like, oh, that's a beautiful looking game. Yeah. So, all right, so let's get into season 2 a little bit. We'll talk about we'll talk about your original character, your switch, and then we'll talk about whether you're going to go back or have gone back. But I wanted to ask about season 2. You're excited about the balance patch. It seems like what you're saying is more characters are viable. The actual I don't know if I want to say meta. Meta is an overused word, but you're saying like you feel like the gameplay is more exciting now.
It's more. I can't say it specifically for the spectator, but I know as a player, the game is more interactive. It's more immersive. Okay. Because Tekken kind of works in this way where it's a really complicated rock paper scissors game. You know, like and you know you have these options that do certain amount of damage. They get covered by like these number of options and stuff like that. Eventually, what happens is you kind of start playing in a way that forces your opponent to do things that isn't going to do much to you, right? Like, you know the options that they'll have to beat me if I do this pattern, and it's not going to do much damage, and I can punish them really hard if I make a read on it, or things like that. So you learn to kind of just let things go. Like, I'll take a little low poke here, low poke there. And in the previous season 1, there were a lot of things you had to let go because the characters couldn't really punish things that hard, right? So like a backdash from neutral game or something like that. Like you could see a lot of those, but you just have to let that go until you were like decided that it was time to kill that. But now all the characters have received so many like different buffs, and the game's so much more rewarding for countering a lot of different things for different characters that you're not letting go as much. There's a lot more stuff you have to actively decide to deal with, or like, you know, I can now see that backdash and I know I can kill him for it if I get a read on it. So playing is more active. There's less things you're just gonna like let go. There's more things you're gonna chase after, and like it just makes for a more decision-making game. You know, you're making
more things going on. Like for you, there's more things going on that you have to think about and work and act on in the moment.
Yeah, and that makes the game just feel so good.
For you, yeah. I can see that. So the changes that they've made, it sounds like, you know, they've balanced changes, but overall those balance changes have affected like the momentum of the actual game itself. Yeah, that's wild. That sounds like a good balance patch. Yes. Is there like one? I mean, I guess that's probably it. But I was going to ask if there was one most significant change. But is that kind of it? The fact that all of the changes together changed the momentum of the game?
Yeah, that's mostly it. The season 2 changes, like there's not really many system changes. Yeah. So, you know, like we have the new wall bounce mechanic, but it's not really that big of a deal. But all of the characters, you know, getting more rewarding tools and now having better overall game plans and like the gameplay being more active, that's definitely the biggest.
It seems like they're changing the characters. Like you said, there isn't a system change, but the way you describe it, it sounds like a system change. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So which characters do you feel like really got a good deal, and which ones kind of like got screwed?
Okay. I think Heihachi's kind of ridiculous right now.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, he's pretty good. Like really good. Miguel got a really. He's kind of cheap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking right now like Miguel, Heihachi, Steve is kind of really good too. A lot of characters got buffs. They said that they were mostly going to be doing buffs, and like they nerfed Dragunov's down too, but he also got some buffs to compensate for that. Okay. So every character is kind of like no one really got screwed, which is I think the sign of a good balance patch.
Okay. What about Bob? My boy Bob.
Bob, He's okay. I don't think he got anything too special, but he definitely did get that little roll mix-up thing off the headbutt. It's crazy.
I want to play Bob. I want to play Bob. Any characters who are just unplayable now?
Any characters are just unplayable?
That you would get, you just like, I wouldn't touch that character with a
I think
yardstick. Is that what they say? I forget.
the character that I think was unplayable in like season 1, like was Eliza, the 2D character.
Yeah.
And I don't know if how much they changed about her, but from what I've seen from her in season 2, she's still exactly the same. So kind of whack.
Just because, oh, that's interesting. Because I was going to talk to Mike later, Suken, and didn't he use Eliza to reach top 8 but I guess at the time, like, that was a character that had only been out for a month, and the other players didn't know the matchup.
Yeah.
But then after that, they figured her out, and she was whack.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where a lot of people didn't immediately kind of go to the lab and figure out how to make the character useless. But she's kind of useless when you kind of just space her out, backdash a lot, and all she can really hit you with is like these launch punishable lows or a high homing move, which is like also you just duck and launch. So you can like really force her into playing unsafe with like no reward.
Okay, all right, got it. All right, so let's go back in time a little bit. History and fighting games. How did you get into fighting games?
Okay, so at school I was like 14. And I was doing this little I was like in this research program, and we had like a lot of free time, like a summer research program. So we had like a lot of free time sometimes, and we started playing Smash, like just like randomly, right?
Everyone starts in Smash.
Yeah, it was,
nowadays, like the young players start in Smash. It used to be in my day, everyone started Street Fighter, but now it's everyone starting in Smash.
It's it's a cool casual game and stuff, right? So I'm playing that, and I remember playing. I used to play Tekken a lot as a kid. So. One day I bring Tekken through, and I'm playing that. I'm beating everyone in it, just mashing combos, like mashing strings and stuff. And
you played in a little group or something?
Yeah, like with my friends at the research program.
Okay.
And then this guy comes through. He's like, I don't really play Tekken, but I play Street Fighter. So I'm like, Street Fighter's kind of lame. That's the mentality I was in when I was a kid. I'm like, Street Fighter's kind of lame. But he showed me Evo moment number 37.
Oh, it all comes back to you. Yes. And he explained it, like what was going on.
He explained the parry timing, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." So he brought Third Strike, and we played Third Strike, and then I eventually ended up buying Street Fighter 4, like Super Street Fighter 4, and then I played that for like a year. My friend told me about the local FGC and stuff, and then
is it Atlanta?
Yeah, Atlanta.
Yeah, okay.
And then Tekken Tag 2 was they had like a little location test at Final Round that year.
Okay.
And I was like, I used to play this game when I was a kid, and I played some Tekken.
Yeah.
So I hopped on. I couldn't really play on stick, and I was like, it's kind of annoying, but it made me want to go home and like learn Tekken on stick and like learn to kind of play it on a more serious level, just to understand it the way I understood Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And then I ended up like practice moding Tekken 6 until Tekken Tag 2 came out. And then after that, I was like just mainly a Tekken player.
Okay. And that's where you made your name for yourself, right? It's Tekken Tag Tournament 2, right? Yeah. What in terms of like, so when you start getting serious about Tekken Tag Tournament 2, it sounds like you were just sort of, the way you explain it, it sounds like you gradually, if you got a final round, you certainly found your way into the FGC.
Right.
Then you started to figure out like how important what the games were to people. And I guess for you, if you were passionate about it.
Yeah, I would say it was more like I was a bored teenager, and I really liked video games in general.
Okay.
So I didn't go to even play at Final Round. I went to go spectate. Okay. Because I had been watching all this FGC. I've been watching all this FGC stuff, and I wanted to go see what one looked like, a major looked like, and then there was Tekken Tag 2 there, and I didn't even watch Street Fighter that year. I spent my whole time playing on the Tekken Tag 2 location test.
Wow. Yeah, that stuff happens. Okay, and then you started to take that seriously, and then I guess you went to locals or something.
After that, I labbed Tekken 6 for like a few months before Tekken Tag 2 came out, just like in practice mode, like learning all the fundamentals of the game.
Oh, you did. So you really did get into the mindset of somebody who wants to get good at a game.
Yeah, but it wasn't because I wanted to get good at the game. It was more like I just wanted to understand it, kind of.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure I I could play it and like have fun with it. So I just labbed the game out, and then.
The reason I ask that is because a lot of people don't think that way.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, like if you want to get good at a game, you don't necessarily think in a process like that. You just think, I'll play it a lot, and it will be fine. I mean, maybe this is just me, but like certainly me and other people, maybe it's my generation because I'm a little bit older, but like video games are just fun. So it's like I never really think about like I never used to, and still sometimes don't think about labbing games. I was playing somebody the other day who plays Mario Kart and was beating me at Mario Kart, and I was like, why are you good at Mario Kart? And they were like, well, I went on the internet and like labbed all this stuff, you know. And I was like, you labbed Mario Kart? What the fuck? Like, this is supposed to be a fun game. Are you kidding me? And so I'm realizing that there's this whole generation of people who take video games far more seriously than I ever did, or probably still do.
I think, to me, that's what having fun with a video game was, right? Like, a video game is a little puzzle with an objective for you to figure out, right? So, like, doing a puzzle, like, solving is the fun part. Okay. So, spending that time, like, trying to understand, okay, how am I going to win games of Tekken? Yeah. And, like looking at all the tools I had there, like, that was part of the having fun with the video game. Wow. So...
Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. That makes sense. It's just very different from... This is why I love doing interviews, because everyone's so different, you know? Next question. Oh, what should have been your proudest moment so far in your career?
Proudest moment? It's actually a hard one, because... I mean, I guess I was pretty proud to see last year, when after the end of the Tekken World Tour, I had placed, like, #1 on the leaderboards, after, like...
In the regional one? Yeah, okay.
And in the US, after like a hard year of like struggling to figure out the new game, like I said, dealing with people who were like more, like I said, like naturals, so like the initial struggle of figuring out Tekken 7 and being forced to compete and like going through all of that,
paid off.
At the end of it, I saw #1. I was pretty excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it paid off. So that is really, really good. Now, the Tekken World Tour itself, what do you think of the format? Do you like it?
The new format?
Is it changed now?
Yeah, it's changed now.
Oh, I didn't know.
So in last year, they had the regional leaderboards.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So, you had US, Europe, and...
And you couldn't score points in other places, could you? Right, okay.
And that was pretty cool, I think. All the regions didn't get the game at the same time, so, like... Yeah. Being able to just kind of compete within your region and not have to worry about competing internationally for a game that didn't have an international release was pretty good. And then it's pretty cool, pretty hype at the finals. You go top 5 from each region, so like every region was represented thoroughly.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Right now, I still enjoy the Tekken World Tour, but I think having it not region locked anymore is kind of
less interesting for the spectator.
Yeah. Oh well, I can't say for the spectator but for me as a player, I think having those kind of like local regional battles. Yeah. And then at the end of it, like comparing like each region, right? Like okay, these are the guys we have to represent our country. These are the guys that have to represent. Yeah. That was pretty sick.
Okay, so now is it just like they just go by the global leaderboard?
Yeah, global leaderboard.
Oh, okay, so that's going to be tough because I was looking at that yesterday. So let's talk about that a little bit because, the Koreans are pretty dominant. Yeah, I think the US and the Europeans. I mean, there's a couple of European players popping up there, and where is the US scene right now? Globally, like, how do you feel about the strength of the US scene, and what do you think the US need to do?
Okay, so there's so many different aspects when you're talking about the strength of the scene. I would say if we were talking about the top player, like the top 5 US. Yeah. our top 5 is I think very competitive with like the top 5 of every other region outside of Korea.
Okay.
But like top 5 US versus top 5 Japan, it's gonna be a good fight. Then top 5 US versus top 5 Europe, I think we're like over Europe.
Okay.
But then the average level of the American player, I think, is probably the lowest out of all the regions.
Okay.
Right. So like outside of top 5.
Okay.
And I think what we're doing right now is actually really good. People are getting better, right? On average. Before in like Tekken Tag 2, I didn't really see any progress outside of like 2 players.
Okay.
But I think as a region right now, we're getting really strong. People are getting more into the game. They're kind of starting to think about it more. We have more people like playing locally, discussing the game. So the overall culture of the people who are like coming up is changing, and I think that's really good for US right now.
So when you say changing, do you mean people are talking more to each other?
Yeah.
And it's more sort of like more sharing.
Yeah, it's more. I'd say more. There are more students of the game popping up, in the mid levels and like the lower mid levels of the game. So people who are really interested in like understanding how the game works and like talking about it. That like that's the general topic of discussion, rather than like just sitting around talking about who's the best and like just playing the game just to play it. That's overall contributing to like breeding new players who are progressing really quickly.
And do you think that approach is I mean, it sounds like you think that's the right approach. Okay. Right. Do you think there's more that can be done, like to speed that up, or do you think just because I guess what I'm saying is like South Korea is incredibly dominant. It appears to me, at least from the outside looking in. Like, how do you get to that level?
That has been their cultures like since forever, right? And it shows in every aspect of Korean competition. Like when you go there and you play, right? You can find like all these mid-level players who are kind of like willing to talk about or willing to discuss like what's good, what's bad, like different strategies about how to play, right? Like it's just the overall gaming culture there. Like not even just for Tekken, but
okay.
And then in Japan, it's kind of the same thing in the arcades.
Okay.
People are interested in figuring stuff out. Like you go into the Namco Sugamo arcade, and there's like videos of beginner combos and stuff like that for the.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, like just playing like little character tutorials playing on the screens in there.
That's cool.
And so it's just different things where you see that culture kind of coming through. Like even in Europe too. And America kind of just didn't really have that, and like we're getting started into it now. But before, previously we didn't really have that, and I think as more of those players come up and get established, we'll see the culture kind of spreading to things like commentary or video, the content that's being created and things like that. So it's just a matter of patience at this point.
Okay, all right, good. So it sounds like America is on the right track. Let's talk about the game a little bit. I think you said you're happier with the game at the moment. Happier is not a definitive state. It's like, how do you feel about the game right now? Are you? What are the things you like, and what are the things that are there things that you feel like I wish they would change this? Like just general thoughts about the game development.
Okay, well, I think love Season 2 Tekken right now, right? So how I'm feeling, there are things that kind of annoy me or like frustrate me with Tekken 7 in general, but I don't think that's the fault of the game, but more of myself.
Okay.
Right? I think if I feel any kind of frustration with the game, it's because of my lack of understanding, right? I think it should be a way that it isn't. Yeah. But like, it is that it is what it is. So yes. I need to adapt to it as a player.
A lot of people say that about Street Fighter 5 because nowadays a lot of people say, stop trying to make the game play the way you want it to play,
and play it as it
play the game. This is the game.
Right.
And once you accept that, then you'll get better.
Yeah.
So
you know, there's always going to be those things. You know, I'm kind of like ironing those things out as a player, just continuing to adapt, even though it's been out for like a year and a half now. It's still kind of it's still new-ish for a fighting game.
Oh yeah, especially a Tekken game.
Yeah, especially as deep as Tekken goes. So like, there's always just these things to adapt to. You know, kind of change your mentality about some things you didn't even realize you were thinking about. You kind of have to go back and like change the way you perceive it. So, outside of those little things, I think this game is perfect right now.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. I was going to ask you what you want to see in the future, but if you're feeling good about it right now, then we will move on. I want to ask you about your character, actually, because we talked about Season 2 balance changes. I understand that, and I'm going to say this wrong, everybody, but I understand that you play Hwoarang, and you recently switched to Kazumi, right?
I switched, yeah. So like, I started this year out playing Kazumi exclusively, then I started playing Kazumi and Hwoarang.
You were playing together. Okay. Now that this patch has dropped, how are you feeling about those two characters?
I don't think I'll be playing Kazumi in the future.
Okay.
I kind of like the way that Hwoarang kind of plays now. He's gone back to the style that I enjoyed with him in Tekken Tag 2.
Okay. What would you describe that style as? Because I like archetypes.
Yeah, he's a very it's a like a controlled aggression you need with the character, right? Because the character does not do well on defense, and his neutral is really unsafe. So he wins games by kind of punishing his opponent's defense and how they try to play around like not being put on defense, right? So he's got good whiff punishment. So like when they're trying to keep him out,
you got to absolutely maximize your moments.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to like stay on them, and staying on them is risky. Staying on them can be risky, but the reward when you pick out how an opponent's trying to get away from you can be pretty good. So that aggressive style of just constantly understanding how my opponent's thinking and like playing around it is what I play video games.
So you have a patience to you that you're willing to wait and irritate your opponent until it's ready to do your thing. Yeah. Okay. So why did you pick that character originally? Was that the reason, or did you figure that out? Did you figure that out eventually, or was there like some dumb reason why you picked the character originally?
Some dumb reason why I picked the character.
Yeah, there always is. There always is.
Yeah. So like I said, I played the game a lot when I was a kid. I was like 4 years old or something, and he had this string in the game, just mash X, right? 4 kicks come out, and the last one's a launcher, and then if you kept mashing X again, it would combo into itself. So you do the 4 string. Last one would launch, then you do it again, and it combo. And like as a kid, that was a gold mine. I was like, this is how we play the game. We just press X. So that's why I started out.
It's kind of funny you say that, because one of the approaches that ArcSys has started to make for trying to get people into games is auto combos. And a lot of people, professionals don't really care too much about auto combos because they're like, it's okay, I got my combos which are better than auto combos, so I'm good. Other people get a little bit put off by auto combos because when they first start playing the game, they're like, oh god, this person's mashing auto combo and I want to practice my, whatever. Yeah. But it's funny that you picked your character based off of what sounds like a bit like an auto combo, basically.
It was basically an auto combo,
which gave you an opportunity to be able to play.
Yeah.
So interesting. I think that's interesting. I'm terrible at segues, by the way. I had this conversation with Sage. Jam yesterday. I was just like, I'm terrible at segues. I just want to get as much substance as I can in the time that I have. Yeah. I don't want to just have a nice chat. I want to have like my questions, Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. What's your FGC unpopular opinion?
My FGC unpopular.
You might have a few. Just pick one.
I guess overall, yeah. A lot of people say games are easier now, right?
Okay.
I think it's harder to be good at the games that we play now than it was before.
Why?
Because of the fact that like there's no real clear, consistent way to just play the game. Yeah. You kind of have to approach every opponent like they're like they can kill you, and know how to get around it. It can feel like the game's really inconsistent, but then you see players like you see your knees who can just take what feels like an inconsistent game and turn it into like dominance and consistent dominance.
Yes.
And then you sit there and you're like, how do I do that? And it feels impossible.
I've seen that in a few other games too.
Yeah. So finding consistency in these games now is really difficult. But it can be done. It can be figured out.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel like, the games now are harder because it was really easy to figure it out before. It's really hard to figure out now.
Okay. I think that is a good unpopular opinion because Brian F said the same thing. He summed it up in a tweet, which I've been thinking forever, which is, hey, guess what? Fighting games aren't going to get easier because the other guy wants to win.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter what it is. The other guy's always going to want to win. Like, so he's going to put in more work than you, probably, maybe. And, like, so you got to put in more work. So it's never going to, it doesn't matter what you do to the game. Yeah. That other guy is always going to want to win.
Yeah. If it gets easier for you to win, it gets easier for him to win. If it gets easier for you to lose, it gets easier for him to lose. So, like.
Yeah, it's still you overcoming another person, not you overcoming a CPU.
Yeah.
Let's talk about favorite players. Do you have favorite players to watch right now or a favorite player of all time?
Favorite player of all time is definitely Nee.
Nee?
Yeah.
Why?
So his gameplay has kind of changed over the course of like how long he's been playing Tekken. So you can watch like old Tekken 5 Nee, he was like a completely different player. You can watch Tekken 6, Tekken Tag 2, all the things. But he has this way of like playing the game and like identifying the method of playing that Tekken, and then he just does it at such like a masterful level. Like watching Tekken Tag 2, that game was more, like I said it, or I don't think I said this in this interview yet, but I've said it in the past. Tekken Tag 2 was a game that was more about like active reason decision making, right? It was kind of like completely about how you thought the other player was thinking. And Nee adapted to that game like it was nothing, and he played a completely like read-based game like that, and then he switched to Tekken 7, and in Tekken 7 he started playing the, like I said, the kind of let it go style of Tekken, where you just kind of manipulate the options, and it's always so perfectly controlled. I don't know how he does it. It's kind of like amazing to watch, and like no matter what game he's playing.
Wow. Okay. I hear he's a little bit controversial, Nee. Like, I know he has a number of beefs and drama and what have you.
I think so. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't. As a player, I don't really pay attention to that.
You don't pay attention to the drama?
No, as a player, I just look at games.
Interesting, because the spectators love the drama.
Yeah, they do.
That's definitely a big part of it. So, talking of spectators and people who are watching this, and potentially players who want to be as good as you, this is an important question, because people want to know details. Talk to me about training. Like, what do you do? Do you train on a daily basis? How many hours do you do? And what type of things do you do?
Honestly, all the answers to that depends on like where I think I am with the game at that point in time. Like how I trained when I was like learning the game is completely different than how I train like now.
That's a good answer. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, so tell me about those two phases, or more. There might be more, but like those two main phases, perhaps, like when you were learning and now.
So initially, when I was trying to figure out the game, like I said, games are kind of like a puzzle. When you're gonna figure out the objective. So I was like, okay, how do I win a game of Tekken, right? And eventually, I kept questioning that, and it boiled down to I have to be able to make enough decisions to kill the other guy's health bar before he kills mine. And I wanted to kind of turn all of that into my favor. So I didn't want to make any bad decisions. So I'm like, what are bad decisions? What should I not be doing before I worry about like what I should be doing? So I found that, I figured out punishment, all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to make sure I don't do any unsafe moves for no reason. I don't just take damage for no reason. So I went through my character's move list, figured out what I shouldn't be doing, like what I should be doing. And then I'm like, okay, now that I got that out of the way, I want to be able to punish them when they make a bad decision, right? So I should be able to beat everyone who's doing the bad stuff before I worry about having to do the good stuff.
Yeah.
So I went through practice mode, but this was all before I even tried playing online. I was like, I'm going to do like 2 characters a day, just go through the frame data.
Wow, that's a lot of work. Yeah.
And then I just practice punishing the stuff just so I know it.
Crazy, that's wild.
Then I was like, okay, wait, throws, right? You should be breaking throws in Tekken, because in Tekken you break them on reaction.
Okay.
So I was like, if I take a throw, it's because I messed up. That's the only reason. So practice my throw breaking, like 30 minutes a day. After the punishment, then I'm like, okay, need to practice my movement, because I want to be able to move properly. The difference between standing there and blocking and like moving and blocking in Tekken is huge.
Yeah.
So I practiced my movement to the point where I could, block and move as comfortably as I wanted to the point where like I just wanted to be able to, control my character and get stuff done without like taking damage for no reason.
That's incredibly important. That control of the character is deadly in all types of games, like with dashing and all the different options that you have. I think people underestimate that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a big deal to me, because I was like, if the game is like a strategy game, I want to if it's a mind game, right, a battle between the minds. I don't want anything to happen because like that I wasn't thinking about, right? If I lose the game, I want it to be because I was thinking this and I got punished for it by the other guy who was thinking that. So like I said, building control of my character, and making sure I wasn't like doing stuff without thinking about it. Right, so I didn't want to be attacking just because I was like panicking or something. I wanted to attack because I thought this guy's going to block here or something like that. So I went into online. This happened. I'm talking about it really quickly, but it happened like weeks at a time. Training these different parts, and I made myself not attack unless I wanted to, like unless I thought through this is a good time to attack, just to build that control. And then after that, it was just about getting more information about the game. So I just played a lot of online and see that's where it gets different, right? Because now I'm no longer just like practice moding all day. I'm going online, I'm playing people, I'm trying to figure out what are good strategies, what are people doing, how do I defend against all this stuff. So that's when I just became like a playing monster, right? I just would play online like all the time, go to locals, play stuff like that, just trying to get experience. And then Tekken 7 comes out, and my training becomes more practice mode again. I need to figure out all the differences in the game. I need to understand like what's changed about this game. What I do against these characters. I'm trying to like catch up to what I knew before. And now we are back at the experience part, where I need to kind of just play, get an understanding of what's good, and try to figure out like what's a good strategy, how to win games with Tekken 7, stuff like that.
Yeah. That is a really brilliant answer, and it makes a lot of sense. I want to talk about crossover characters, because the last few people that I've interviewed on Tekken, Koreans actually, mainly I think, have complained about, like they hate the crossover characters, right?
Yeah.
Because the reason they've been giving is that these characters bring new mechanics into the game,
right,
which are not Tekken mechanics. And I'm 50-50 on like trying to understand it, because part of me is like, yeah, I get it. When a franchise starts to not become Tekken, that sucks, right? But then there's another part of me which is like, well, can't you adapt? Yeah. Like, how do you feel about the crossover characters?
Okay, so I have maybe a weird opinion. I don't hate them, but I don't really like them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like, I hate playing against them, and I understand to play against them, and I think like Eliza and Akuma are kind of bad as far as like gameplay goes. So the reason I hate playing against them is because it's like I have to play this way, and this character is kind of useless, right? And I don't want to. I want to play like all of Tekken. I want to play like the whole game. I want to be able to explore what my character can do, and all that stuff, but it turns into anti-Akuma. And so rather than playing Hwoarang, I'm playing anti-Akuma, the game anti-Akuma with Hwoarang, right? I'm playing anti-Eliza with Hwoarang. And then with Hwoarang, it's kind of ridiculous because the character's like really good fundamentally.
Oh.
Yeah. And so when you're playing him, you can think about a lot less of the whole game of Tekken, but your opponent has to really be specific with how they move around him, and they have to have like demonstrate this whole Tekken mastery to kind of fight like the training wheels that is Hwoarang. And I hate that. I hate that so much.
Okay.
Geese is too effective, I think, for how little you have to understand about Tekken.
He has the Tekken fundamentals and something extra.
Exactly, right. So he's like solid fundamentally, but then the player who's using him isn't even thinking about the Tekken fundamentals. But to fight him, you have to think about the Tekken fundamentals and the Geese.
Okay. So what do you think about the season 2? So you got the returning characters, Anna Williams and Lei. Hwoarang. They recently were released. Did you check them out? Like, how do you feel about those characters?
So I played a little bit of Anna, and I played against a lot of play, and they feel exactly the same as they were before. It was kind of, I don't want to say disappointing, but like underwhelming.
Oh, okay. You expect them to have a little something extra?
Yeah, like I was expecting some Tekken 7.
Like
what Tekken 7 stuff is Anna and Lei gonna have when they come in the game, but they're kind of like, we got Anna and we got Lei from the previous games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about it with those characters.
So it is what it is. So Lei is just as complex as he was before?
Yeah.
I kind of, in my head, for some reason I thought maybe like a complex character would be simplified, but because of how some of the games have been going. Neegan, any thoughts on that? I mean, you're not seeing a lot. Did that, when you saw that, were you like, what the fuck? Or were you like, interesting? Or?
I was excited.
Excited?
Yeah, I was like, okay, so I was at Evo, but we weren't in the arena. We were like in our hotel room watching the stream, and like me and a couple other friends, and we saw it, and we like, I can't remember if they like played the music first or whatever, but we knew it was like Neegan from
yeah.
Like before,
because I think he does the whistle or something. I can't remember what it was.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
And like I started like freaking out. I was like, oh my God. And I didn't. I previously, like, I stopped watching The Walking Dead like a while ago, but just the concept of like having such a non-fighting game character in Tekken is like super sick to me. You know, like when they did those crossovers in Mortal Kombat, I thought that was sick.
Okay.
So having Neegan and Tekken was like, oh, it's gonna be great.
So you do, to some extent, appreciate the marketing side of it, which because that's going to bring eyeballs to Tekken, definitely. Yes. You know, Akuma brought my eyeballs to Tekken for sure, and I'm sure Geese Howard did the same for people, and I the Final Fantasy one was a bit wild.
Oh, that was sick too.
Noctis, right? Yeah. And then this one is just so out there. It's like they're like, fuck it, let's try this. And I'm gonna be really interested to see him play, because I've watched The Walking Dead and I've seen that scene. So I guess we'll see.
His radar is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. But the question remains, I'll probably do a video on this at some point in the future, but the question remains, like, when does a franchise not become a franchise? Like, when does it become something else? But it seems like until those characters become overwhelmingly dangerous, people are just going to be irritated by them, as opposed to like, what's happening with this game? Actually, are there any characters in the game that you absolutely despise?
See, like it goes against my philosophy. Like I said, if I feel like angry or frustrated with something, I'm like, this is my fault. I have to adapt. This is what the game is, right? But at the same time, I really hate Geese.
Oh, you really hate Geese?
I really hate Geese.
Okay, well, you explained how that was. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Any characters that are still not in the game, legacy characters, previous characters that you would like to see come back?
At this point, the only legacy character I want to see is Mokujin.
Okay.
And Mokujin, I don't know if you know about Mokujin.
No, tell me.
Mokujin in Tekken is this little wood character, like a little wood man, right? And he has no playstyle. What he does is he copies every other character, all other characters' things, like each round. Really? Yeah. So it's a copycat character. So like at one round you're playing Kazuya, the next round you're playing Jin. The next round you're playing like Heihachi or something.
Does he get to pick?
No, you don't get to pick. It's random. It's totally random. He's random every round.
Funny.
And I love that character.
The concept of that is brilliant.
And I want him back. I don't know why he's not back. They put him in like every Tekken except this one.
Gotcha. All right, so fighting games in general, are there any others that you have been playing or eyeballing? For maybe just for fun?
I really like Guilty Gear.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you play it?
I started playing it a while ago, but then I was like, I have to focus on Tekken 7.
That's another game which has a lot of, I mean, if you're going to take it seriously, which you probably would, it's going to take a lot of labbing, I expect.
Yeah, I couldn't play it the way I couldn't invest my time into it the way I wanted to because of Tekken. But like, to me, in the perfect world, like, ideal FGC, right? We have like Tekken as the premier 3D fighting game. We have Guilty Gear as the premier 2D fighting game, right? Like that to me, that game represents like kind of what 2D fighting game should be, and it's probably because it's so similar to Tekken in how it functions. But I love that. I haven't been able to play it. What I have been playing recently for fun like in my free time, is Smash 4, which is not even a fighting game. Well, depends on who you ask. It's not a fighting game. But I've been playing Smash 4 and like getting into that and like figuring it out. It's pretty
You interested in Ultimate?
Yeah. So I was playing Smash 4 like casually just with my friends, not even thinking about Ultimate. I kind of just got hooked on it. And then I was like, oh hey, Ultimate's coming out. But I'm mostly just interested in figuring out the system of Smash because it's always been pretty cool to me.
So do you think there will become a time where you'll be playing more than one game at a professional level?
It's possible, but like I said, when I get into games, I'm not thinking about getting good. It's kind of more so it happens because figuring out the game is like what I find fun. So if I keep playing Smash and just having fun with it and like figuring it out some more and I get good at it, then like sure.
Okay. All right. So because Tekken's pretty deep, and I have to wonder whether it's even possible. But I know Jeonding, he's a bit of a natural though. Jeonding is really good at Street Fighter as well. Here's a question for you: in the pursuit of fighting games, in the process of fighting games, do you feel like it's taught you anything about life, or the things that you've done in fighting games has overlapped into other things that you do?
Like I said, I've been doing this since I was like 15, right? Yeah. Started with Street Fighter when I was 15.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if the fighting games directly had an influence on it, but a lot of my experiences growing up, because of it was like my central hobby. Those experiences growing up, I learned a lot through my interactions with the FGC, or playing around fighting games. So just like dealing with different people, stuff like that, and then having a central hobby and like figuring out how to kind of improve at it, and understanding like myself or as a person who likes to improve at things, how I operate around my passion and stuff like that. All that comes from playing fighting games.
Okay, so it's definitely had an influence on like you as a person, how you go about life and dealing with problems, problem solving, and getting better at things and all that sort of stuff. Because I feel like that's a big deal, but no one ever talks about it, because I feel like it probably happens with a lot of passions, but like when you find a passion and you want to get better at it and you find ways to overcome obstacles, I feel like that leaks into the rest of your life in a positive way. All right, so what do you feel do you feel like you've made any sacrifices, like life-wise, in terms of like your pursuit of fighting games?
It's hard for me to say if it's been sacrifices or not, because kind of like the way I live my life is like there's no point in doing anything unless you're like really gonna enjoy it, right? So like I finished college pretty early. I could have just focus only on my solely on like getting a programming job and like moving up the corporate ladder like that, stuff like that. I probably would have been miserable. So
okay.
So I don't see it as a sacrifice personally.
Okay.
I'm doing what I love, and if I didn't enjoy it as much anymore, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if I felt like I was losing something because of it, I might not be in it, but I am 100% in it because that's what it is.
Have you had any sort of how can I put it? Hard, difficult moments where you thought like, okay, I'm pursuing something, or I'm pursuing potentially a pro gaming career. Have you had any moments where you've had a difficult moment and you've felt like maybe quitting or something like that? And how did you deal with that?
Season 1 Tekken 7 actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that game frustrated me to no end, right? And it got to a point where I was like, I'm not really having fun playing this game. I'm doing it because it's what I'm good at, and like the skills from my previous passion carried over. Like, that's how I saw it, right? Tekken Tag 2 is my previous passion. Season 1 Tekken 7, I wasn't enjoying it, so I'm like, the skills from my previous passion have carried over, and I'm just doing this just because I have those skills. I could find something to do that's more fun. something more entertaining to do with my life. And I didn't want to give it up too easy, right? So like I was feeling this, I was feeling kind of unhappy with it. I'm like, I can adapt. I can try to find what's good about this game, like what I like about it, and like actually right at the end of season 1, like my last tournament, I was rewatching my matches from that, and I was like, okay, actually, if I can like completely adapt to this thing and just look at it a certain way, I can like I kind of fell in love with the game again. And then that happened right as they released season 2. And in season 2, I'm looking at the game with this new perspective, and then it's also a game that I enjoy a lot more. So like, kind of overcoming that like I hate this mentality. Like I can't adapt, and I'm angry about this. I think that's something that probably helped me grow a lot.
Okay. So do you have like a quote or a mantra or a thing that you think about when you come through go through potentially those hard times, or when you think about life? Like, do you have anything like that you, because you said you got your notebook where you write stuff about getting into a mindset. So I was wondering if maybe you had like, and maybe you have a few quotes that, but do you have one that you can share where when you think about life?
A quote I can share when I think about life. I can't quote myself, can I?
You can if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I always think of things like, YOLO is the classic one, right? It's like, you only live once, so like, when you think about life that way, like, you got to think, we're all gonna die. Like, go do what you want to do.
Oh yeah, like I said earlier, I only do things if I'm having fun, and then the way I saw it when I was younger is like, okay, the point of life is to enjoy life.
The point of life is to enjoy life. Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of like how I've been living ever since I figured that out.
That's wonderful. That's actually wonderful, because I spent a lot of my life not understanding that and feeling guilty about that, actually. The idea of, having fun or enjoying myself. So I think that's an important message for people out there. And I think when you get there, you can start to excel as well, because you're just in a better place mentally, in terms of like enjoying things, rather than I have to go to university, I have to go get a job, I have to go get a stable career, I have to get married, I have to have kids. No, you don't. You
can do what makes you happy.
You can do what makes you happy. Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, we just got a few more questions. So I guess fun questions. Do you play general video games, like outside of fighting games, for fun?
I used to play League of Legends a lot.
That does not sound like fun to me. But like, okay, that just sounds like another intense game. But
okay. Give me an example of a general fun game.
I don't know, like a JRPG or something like that. Like
Kingdom Hearts.
Huh?
Kingdom Hearts. I just like finished playing through all of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 again.
Oh, okay. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you enjoyed that? That's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I'm really excited for 3 coming out.
Okay, all right, awesome. That's good to hear. Yeah, I love games like that. All right, in terms of your life outside of video games in general, what are other things? Give us a little window into your life. What other things are you interested in?
Okay, so outside of gaming, it's weird. Gaming has kind of taken been the central passion of everything, but overall, what I'd say like the main thing I enjoy about life is like figuring stuff out and like just learning things. So
problem solving. Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of like shows up in all kind of things. Like I ended up doing software development, and then just finding new little hobbies to do. New games, there was like learning Japanese, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. You've been learning Japanese?
Yeah, on the side, kind of.
Yeah, how's that going?
It's pretty sick. It's a different type of learning.
Okay.
I like to kind of just figure out how to get good at things.
Yeah, I get it.
And that translates to like so many different things, but that's always the primary focus, is like my learning and how I'm going to like get better at learning stuff.
Got it. That makes sense. So constantly taking on new challenges, whatever they may be, especially if they are a different type of challenge that you can sort of overcome. All right. So, and if you weren't a pro gamer, presumably you'd be doing software programming.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So I think that's probably it. Unless there was anything else that you wanted to talk about. If there's any topic that you're like, you know, we didn't talk about that you wanted to address. Is there anything you want to say or if there's anything you want to say to the people who follow you?
My Twitter's awesome. Stop hating. That's mainly it.
Okay. Well, listen, it's been a real pleasure. It's been an awesome interview. I've really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. And we're going to say goodbye to these guys. So see you guys.